Hello again! This episode will be all about the Tesla Roadster. I have used a Tesla Roadster as my daily driver for around 5 years. Every single day of the year, summer, fall, winter and spring. So I have gotten a lot of experience from using it and fixing it. I've done pretty much all the work on maintenance and repairs myself. So I thought I would just go through the entire car and share basically every information I can think of going through the car. So without further ado, let's start from the front. The whole car is carbon fiber, aluminum tub, and unfortunately some steel screws which tend to rust. As we can see here, the screws have started to rust. I recommend changing out all those with better quality screws so that they don't seize up and become impossible to remove. The headlights come in 2 different variants at least. They come with the halogen, which are these, which are absolutely horrible. Then they came with xenon, which are really good. And then it's also possible to do a LED upgrade, for instance. I will link all parts and everything in the description so that you can find information about all these parts that I will be talking about. Typical problems with the headlights are peeling. Here you can see some small kind of cracks or scratches in them, and these tends to melt up because of all the heat. So definitely recommend doing the LED upgrade. The rims come in 3 different variants at least. These are the 2.5 standard rims. These are standard, and then they also come with the forged rims on the sport models or extra equipment. They work fine. All the suspension parts and the brakes in the front, including the wheel bearings, are the same as Lotus Exige S2. So I have replaced the drop links and the wheel bearings from Lotus parts, which is probably 1/3 of the price and a lot quicker shipping than ordering from Tesla. Since we're talking about the suspension, I can also talk about the shocks. The built-in shocks are in very good quality, and the absolute cheapest and easiest thing to do when they get worn out is to just get them refurbished. Price is around £100 or $100 per damper, so less than $500 or pounds to do all 4 sides, including shipping, which is a brilliantly cheap price and definitely recommended. These blinkers are also same as Lotus Exige if you need to replace them. 2 of them have failed on my cars. I've had 2 Roadsters. This plinth makes a lot of wind noise and kind of blocks the view if you sit in the seat. So what I did on my last one was to upgrade to Exige, the brand new Exige or Exige plinths, which makes a lot less wind noise, and I think they look better and they don't restrict the view as much. Another problem about Roadsters, at least European Roadsters, is bubbles in the paint. You can see some small bubbles in this fender too, and it's basically bad production from Tesla. Tesla have done some of them on warranty, but they of course try to get out of warranty problems as much as possible. So unless you got written notice that they will fix it on warranty, you have to do it yourself, and it's pretty hard to fix because you need to sand down the entire fenders to the carbon, coat and seal them before you paint again. If you don't do that, the bubbles will come back. So these fenders have already been repainted once, but it wasn't done properly. So you have to do it, or if you want this fender to be 100% perfect, you have to do everything over again and properly. Some of the extra equipment you could get on the car was carbon fiber parts. You could get a carbon fiber front lip, this part, air intakes instead of the hard plastic, and rear spoiler. It looks amazing, and I wish this car had it, but it does not. These parts are still carbon fiber, but they're just painted and don't look as good. This is hard plastic, so it looks horrible. So the carbon fiber intakes matches this perfectly and look amazing. Same deal with the rear suspension on the car. Pretty much all of the parts are Lotus Exige S2 parts. Super cheap, easy to get a hold of. Definitely recommend just changing to Lotus parts. Makes your life a lot easier. Rear part of the car. Here you can see one of the things that's very special about this car. That's the Shorai charger, which makes it a lot more both practical and usable. And I think it's all under 50 cars that has it out of the 2,500 that are made. So kind of a special thing about this car. You have the reverse camera here, and here you can also see kind of a design flaw. This plastic lip leans in, so every time you wash the car, there's water laying here. So what I did on my last car was I drilled one small hole in each corner here, so the water would run out. You can't really see the holes unless you know they're there, so I would do it again if I were not selling it. The rear lights here are my least favorite part of the entire car. They work fine, but I've always kind of hated how they remind the car. It looks like a Lexus, and I don't like the look. My favorite part of the car, though, is how this whole rear part here just swoops and creates the little natural tail here. I think this part of the car looks absolutely amazing. And this carbon fiber protection bar here usually or can easily get scratched up by the hardtop, which makes things like this. They're pretty easy to get rid of. You just have to sand it down and polish or paint it again. This is the soft top, as you can see. Same as Lotus and Vauxhall or Opel. One would think that the soft top is worse in rain than the hard top, but I actually prefer the soft top because the soft top has these things which stops the raindrops from rain or dropping into the car. The hard top is all smooth here, so when it rains, all the rain lands on top here. Then you open the door, and then the water will run inside, or it might stay here, but then you sit inside, so the car becomes a little bit lower here, and all the water runs into the car. So the soft top is actually better. Typical thing to break on the soft top is these wires that go here. They're actually adjustable. If you rip off some Velcro here, you can adjust everything so that yeah, you don't make them too tight so they break. I can actually show you how to take the roof off quickly here. Start with opening the trunk. One hatch on each side, pull in. Done. To open the rear trunk, there's a button here that you push, or you double press the key on the bottom part there. This key is also the same as Lotus Exige S2, So if you need a new one, you just buy the key from Lotus or a place that sells Lotus part, very cheap. Then you need to code it by Tesla, and everything works. You can just change out the actual metal part and replace this part from Lotus, and it works perfect again. Here inside is the battery pack, coolant, and PEM, power electronics module. PEM is something that is also poorly made from Tesla. They used, especially on the 2.5 Teslas, they used insulation material that deteriorates, so it needs to be replaced. On both my Teslas, I've replaced it with a local guy here in Norway that uses, or I made him use, ceramic insulation, which will last longer than the car, and if you get it the right thickness and size, it works absolutely brilliant. It works a lot better than the original parts. This box here is extra because of the Shademo, but the rest looks standard. This trunk here is actually very reasonable sized. You get room for golf clubs and quite a lot of groceries or whatever you need. I've taken this car on a surf trip with all the equipment I need for a long weekend. Surfboard strapped to the roof, works perfectly. There's some extra storage underneath here, and here we have the toolkit. A typical thing that breaks in the rear here is the actuator. To fix that, you just take out these plastic plugs, then there's screws holding the actuator and latch, and you change it. You can get those very cheaply on the internet, and it's easy to replace. And the way you notice that they're about to break is that there's no reaction when you use the buttons on the key fob, or that they sometimes fail on from opening on the inside. Both my cars have had failed actuators, and the problem is that the dust cover deteriorates, so moisture gets inside and makes it glitchy, basically. Here we can see some of the carbon fiber weave. Very cool that the whole car is made out of carbon fiber. And these struts also tend to become faded after a while. It's just one screw here, one screw down there. It's kind of a pain to get to, but easy to replace, and makes this latch go up properly like it should again. So definitely recommend doing that also. In the front, no luggage space, unfortunately. You have the washer here, washer fluid. The things that tend to break here in the front is this 400 volt controller. The only problem is that moisture, that the seals probably kind of stop working as well. So moisture gets inside, and ways of avoiding that is first of all to not use a power washer and things that can get a lot of moisture into the part. Other thing is probably to put something on the rubber here so it seals better. And if worst case this should fail, it's possible to replace it with better parts. There's also some fans deep down inside here that probably will break at some point if you use your car a lot. And the third thing is this radiator here. It can tend to basically deteriorate and fall apart, especially if you use it in the winter and salt. On my last car I replaced it with an OEM unit, but before installing it I made them repaint or paint it with silver or black paint, so that it will be completely covered and not deteriorate as fast as it would originally. And I had it for my last car for a while afterwards, and it looked 100% perfect for the time I have it after replacing it with a painted unit. It might lose a few percent of the original performance, but I definitely think it was worth it. The interior is pretty standard on this car. It's also possible to get carbon fiber door sills, instrument pinnacle, center parts here, and door handles. This car does not have it, and I wish it did because it looks absolutely awesome. The seats are actually surprisingly good. They're comfortable to sit on. It's possible to adjust the back support by just ripping up this and moving this. It's Velcro, and I recommend using leather finishing on it so they will stay looking nice. Taking off the doors is a pretty easy way to see if the car's been worked a lot on. You just take a little screwdriver here, lift up here, remove this, lift up here, and then it's possible to take it off, and then you will expose the lock mechanisms and everything like that. Tesla actually made a video when they made the Roadster showing how tall people can actually enter the car, which is pretty funny. The way they recommended it was to put one in first, which is probably the only way a tall person can do it, and then kind of wiggle their way in. It's a lot easier now with the roof off. I usually just sit on the sill and then slide my feet in because they're not that long, and then you're inside. If you start with all the functions here, you have this button that controls the brightness of the instrument cluster, fog lights, and this is to turn on and off the lights. That is the button for the trunk, which I will show you. This is the front, and you have vents. Inside here is the fuse box, so you just need to have a flat screwdriver, turn it, and then move off. You have the glove compartment, which will open if I unlock the car. You have where the air goes, reused air, strength, air condition and heat, and also the microphone for the Bluetooth. Absolutely horrible location. I often have to like sit and move forward like this and speak so that anyone can hear me. And this is to reset the odometer and stuff. Windshield wipers, blinkers, lights, and also actually surprisingly practical and easy to use cruise control. Turn it on, speed up, speed down, turn off. Excellent, very easy and practical to use. Momo steering wheel. Tends to get scratched on the edges here. Some people, it's possible to just remove this and repaint it. Instrument cluster on the EU cars are pretty horrible. It's really hard to see what speed you're actually going in. It's just a horrible design, so I usually keep the just looking down at the speedo here if I pass speed boxes or stuff like speed cameras and stuff like that to make sure I don't speed. There is possible to lock the car here and electrical windows up and down. The sound system in the car on this car is actually surprisingly good, I think. It has an Alpine stereo, and I believe it might be Rockford Fosgate speakers. You can see them up here and all around the car. I think it sounds very good. Better than pretty much all the other stereos that come with standard with cars, at least this age. To turn on the car, you have to unlock it and then put the key in. If you don't unlock it before you put the key in, then it says basically that you have to turn it off and do it again, unlock it again. Here you can hear the most annoying sound about this car. Whenever you have the door open and key on, the car will make this sound. So if you just want to eat some food, ice cream or something with the door open, this car will make this sound no matter what you do until you close the door. Extremely annoying. So here you can see the screen pretty poorly. It's kind of bright outside. maybe I will just move this car around so you can see better. Alright, that is a little bit better. Here is the screen. You have information, service info, charge history, memorial. You have the button to open your garage door, very practical. Valet mode, if you make someone else park it. And ideal range. There's also instructions here, set the clock, drive screens, how you want to charge, if you want it to start at a certain point, which mode you charge in, and so forth. Security pin, home link if you want to set garage door, units if it's EU or American, key fob settings if you want to change what they do, and tow mode if there's some problem with the battery or anything, GSM, and new tires that estimate the speeds and the range if you change from summer to winter tires, for instance. There's also possible to get into a service mode, which gives you a lot of the basically possible to read out more information about the car. If you go to ESS SOC, this is the easiest and best way to see the state of the battery. The CAC on this car is 131-ish, which is pretty average and standard compared to a car with this age and range. It has driven 96,000 kilometers. There's also balancing to see the state of the battery. If it has ones, then it's not perfectly balanced. This is all zeros, so the battery is in perfect shape. You can also see information about air condition and a lot of useful information. It's also possible to read out log files and send if you need your car fixed. Glove compartment is small. You fit pretty much one pair of gloves, so it's a very fitting name, but it's extremely practical to have for small things, so I'm very happy the car has it. It also has traction control, very useful, heated seats, which are very nice in the winter. This is a small connector, which is for Apple products, which you can replace with other products for Android or stuff like that to connect to your phone. As I already said, power windows and cruise control. So this car pretty much has all the stuff you need or would want to use the car as a daily driver, which I have been doing. I haven't really missed any functions for newer cars. It's a brilliantly fun car to drive, and it has every safety equipment and stuff you need with airbags and ABS brakes and traction control. So you can really use this car every day of the year very comfortably. There's halogen bulbs here in the trunk and in the headlights. All these can be replaced with LED lights without creating error codes. So I definitely do recommend that. The front ones, because they will look a lot newer and be actually white instead of yellow. And same with this. And if you replace this with LED, then the interior light becomes a lot both brighter and makes it a lot easier to see what you need to see. The entire interior here is made out of hard plastics, so this car creaks a lot from factory. What I have done on my last car was I took out this cover, took off the entire piece here, and this piece, and on all edges that has plastic, touching plastic, I bought 3M felt tape and taped on one side so that there's no plastic rubbing on plastic anywhere on the interior, and it worked absolutely brilliantly. I could not hear a single creak driving the car afterwards. It was so much nicer to drive, it felt so much better built, and just the entire quality and interior or quality experience of the car was so much better. I totally recommend doing it. Very easy job. Open this, take off this. There's a few screws holding all these few panels, so just be careful and take them off and put felt tape on, and this car will be perfectly quiet. Definitely recommended. Maybe the best upgrade I've done. To make it a little bit more quiet, because there's basically no insulation in the door either. This entire panel is totally hollow. So I also bought some Dynamite Extreme and put on the inside of the door here, and also when I removed this I put it on the back on the front wheel well. Those two things also made the car a lot more quiet, and just the door feel when it closed the door was so much more quiet and nicer. And there's also possible to put dynamite underneath the seats and underneath here and in the rear, but I did not do that on my car. And yeah, it's up to you how much extra weight and insulation you want to put in it. I felt the doors and the front wheel wells were the worst. So here you can kind of see the angle of the plinths too. Now they block this entire part. The Exige or Elise plinths are this angle, so that you will see the mirror just as well, but they don't block. They block maybe half as much as this. Other things I've replaced on the car are lug nuts. Here you can see that they are all the same. As standard, Roadster comes with one locking nut, and it's the worst quality I've ever seen. It becomes, the grip area becomes this small, and they tend to get stuck and break. So as soon as I bought this car, the first thing I did was to just order new nuts and replace the locking nuts, because they are absolutely horrible. Throw them in the trash and never use them again. If they get stuck, it's a pain to get out. I have also changed the 12-volt battery. It's located in here. So to get to it, you have to take off the wheel, take off this plastic panel, and it's a motorcycle-sized battery. So you can easily just go to any places that sells smaller battery on that size and get one that is better performance and probably lighter, or maybe lighter than the one that's there. At least better performance for the same weight, or lighter and same performance. So also recommended upgrade. The windshield wipers are Bosch. I recommend using Bosch, because when trying to use other models, they kind of didn't curve right or as well, which made this center section of the window here not wiping. So I tried to bending them, and it was just a huge pain to make the wipers wipe the whole window. So these Bosch ones are the best ones I have found. Recommend using those. The way the PEM gets cooled is by a double fan that lays around a little bit in the around here in the middle underneath the car. And the way you get to it is that you can raise the car or back it up on something and take off these plastic panels underneath here, and then you will see the fan. One of the main parts of the service is to get to that fan, remove it, and clean off all the leaves and debris on the fan area and also in the PEM. I do not understand why they didn't make a filter on it. So on my last car I did. I took some filter material that looks like air filter materials like Pipercross and stuff, and made a kind of a cage around the whole fan unit, and then place for the filters, and then some mesh again, which you could easily remove so you can replace the filters. Once I did that, there was basically no dust or leaves or anything that got into the PEM area at all, so you could easily extend the service on this car by probably 2, 3, 4 times instead of needing to open it and clean it out like I had to before, or that you should before doing it, at least if you drive your car all year around. So if you want to use your car a lot, which I recommend you do because it's a super fun and awesome car, I totally also recommend doing or making filters for your fans. There is another pretty bad design thing about this car. The rocks and dust from the front wheel here gets kicked out and up in this corner, and there's actually a hole in here between the door and the seal. So if you drive this car on dirty roads, this entire part here gets full of crap, and this part here gets scratched and ruined because of the rocks hitting it. It is possible to buy some rubber and attach in the front of the door here so that it hits here once you close the door. That will eliminate this problem at all or completely. So also something that could be worth doing. I never did on my car, but if I were to have it longer, I probably would. Another thing that have failed on both my cars is these window seals. They tend to get water trapped inside them and start to rust and make them bulge. So might be worth checking on that. They are pretty easy to order from Tesla and replace yourself. I do believe Greg's Raceparts are working on replacement lights for the car that has a red circle on each one of these. They look absolutely amazing on the Lotus, so I hope they will do that. That would be the ultimate design upgrade for this car. So contact them and see if they're working on it, and just say you're interested if you want to help and support that. If you want to go all the way on the mirrors instead of just replacing the plinths, you can get full carbon mirrors, which will look even better, and especially if you have carbon fiber parts on your car already, they will both look so much better and make a lot less wind noise and be a super good upgrade. I will link the mirrors below so you can see them. They have a single strut here and full beautiful carbon fiber looks. So definitely recommend that, especially if you have other carbon fiber parts on the car. If you're a tall person, you might also feel that this mirror is too large and obstructs your view. It is also possible to find smaller kind of shaped mirrors. I know a guy who ordered them from China. They looked amazing and he was super happy about it. I will try and link that too if I can find the information. But if you're a good internet searcher, that's also an opportunity or possibility for you. One of those things that will look a lot nicer if you have other carbon fiber parts in the car. Just another way to make your interior look even better. This car also has the OVMS system, Open Vehicle Monitoring System. Through that you can connect this car to your phone, see charge state, and do some basic operations. So especially for people who do not use this car every day and have it stored over the winter and stuff like that, I would recommend using that, so you will get the information you need about the car and make sure it's doing well when you're not there. The hardtop comes in two different types. It's the standard one that's painted. There's the clear one that looks like this, clear carbon. And there's also possible to get a Visium or something like that, Italian manufacturer who makes see-through tops in different shades, so the car feels a lot more open and nice. All the owners that have bought them and upgraded them absolutely love them, so if you're interested in that, check the link below. When it comes to charging, besides the Shademo which this car is installed, there's also possible to get the CAN made by Henry Sharp, which is an adapter so that you can use other charging cables on your standard Roadster connection, which is this thing. This old Alpine unit is also something that's an obvious upgrade for a lot of people. I have actually I've gotten used to all its weird quirks and kind of weird setup. It's not very intuitive at all, but once you kind of understand the basics, it actually works really well at least. And the performance is pretty good, but it's really outdated, and obviously the maps and stuff, it's impossible to get updates for, so getting a newer like Pioneer or something like that unit with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay makes this car a lot nicer to use. This thing has Bluetooth, so I can connect my phone, and which works really well, really quickly, and very happy about that. And the maps are actually good when they are correct. You can write in all kinds of information, and I think it works very well. So just for the basic functions, I actually like this unit, but if you want the more modern with more functionality and better connection with your phone, yeah, definitely worth an upgrade. There's also some extra storage here. There is a little cubby here that's perfect for a pair of sunglasses or stuff like that. There is the world's worst cup holder. It kind of holds something in place, but it's ridiculously flimsy. And there's also a small pocket underneath here that's perfect for the instruction manual or registration or stuff like that. Just a side note on the suspension, I actually was in contact with the Nitron suspension in England to get custom made suspension for the Roadster. They said they could deliver. I ordered some, and when I got them I saw that the fronts were in the wrong height, and when I checked the spring rates, the rear was also wrong. So I contacted them again. They just lied and say that no, it's supposed to be like this, and they refused to take them back. They refused to do anything. They gave me horrible customer service. So it ended with me well, luckily I had paid with my credit card, Norwegian credit card, which has good insurance. So after I contacted them, I got the money back in 2 days. So not impressed or happy about Nitron at all. I know that they have pretty good products, even though I know that the springs also tend to rust up very easily, but if you can get the right specs for your car, and if you only drive them in nice weather, then I can maybe recommend them, but I just recommend using the Bielstein ones. There's 3 ways of opening the boot. You use the key, the button inside, or this. This tends to fill up with dirt because it's not sealed at all. If it doesn't work, you can just take out this whole cluster, remove the cylinder inside, put it in diesel and take it all apart and clean it, and then it works again. But if you use it in the rain and it gets dirty, it's a pretty big possibility that it will fill up with dirt again, and yeah, won't work. It is the same issue with the backup key lock on the door, which is underneath here. It's at a very dirty spot, and dirt gets flung up there all the time. So you can take it out, clean it, remove it, then it works fine. There's also a pretty typical issue, because this whole thing is glued in place. So if you put your key in, try and open it, it just moves it around and won't unlock the door, which is pretty annoying if you actually need to get in there. What you can also do if you want to not get dirt in the door and keep the key working is to buy an Audi body plug. I randomly found out that they have the same size, so it fits perfectly, and it's just a thin rubber plug which plugs the hole perfectly, and then it won't get dirty and it won't seize up. So recommend getting one of those. So there, I think that's actually everything I have learned about this car. Finally, I want to give a shout out and a kudos to Carl Medlock and Medlock & Sons in Seattle. They're probably the greatest and best resource you can find on these cars. He was actually the one who wrote the service manual on the car, and he has been extremely helpful, and he can still provide great service for all of you living in America and wants to do work on your cars. And if you live in Europe, I definitely recommend using them if you need carbon fiber parts or other upgrades for your car. If you're a Tesla Roadster owner, I recommend joining the original Tesla Roadster owners group on Facebook. You get a lot of good information there, and also the Tesla forum if it still works. I've actually gotten most of my information from the Tesla Roadster group on Facebook. So the car definitely has its quirks, but if you're willing to work with and appreciate the quirks, I think this car is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely love it. Super fun car to drive, and I've enjoyed every single kilometer of using it the 5 years I have. So this car will now be sold so that I can fit my 2 children in a car. So good luck with new owners, and hope you will enjoy it as much as I have.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.